Hey, there we go. There we go. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? Archer, come give me a hug. Yay. Yay. All right. Hello, hello. Okay. Hi, Shamika. What's up, girl? Oh my gosh, I missed you. You know, we had a real estate meeting last Saturday. Girl, it was fire. You would have loved it. I hope that you are coming to the Monopoly in Real Life conference. Did you see that? August 31st and September 1st. So I hope you can come. Okay, there we go. I think Caitlin is trying to come on here. Hey, everybody, share this feed. The information is going to be really, really good tonight. We're going to get into it and have a conversation about real estate. Okay, if y'all follow me, you know what it is. Okay, I'm really excited about this time that we're in right now. I really believe that, we're in a time right now that if you become wealthy, absolutely can, Ramona. Out. Hey, Caitlin, I see you on here in just a minute. We're at a time right now that if you ever desire to become wealthy, you can absolutely do it. Real estate is definitely a long game. It's not something that's fast, fast, fast. But if you get in there with the right team and, willing to take the risk and willing to step out, there's no reason why you cannot develop a significant amount of wealth. And again, it's a long game. It's something that happens super fast. But if you stick in there, really stay with it, it's going to make a really big difference. And so I want you guys to share this feed because I've got attorney Caitlin. She is going to come on here tonight and give us some tea about the legal end of things, because that part is really important. Real estate is nothing you just want to wake up and be like, I'm going to jump into it. No, child. You need to actually be strategic about it and make sure that those relationships and connections are in place so that you can have, a good experience, right? Everything has a level of risk to it, but I want to minimize risk, maximize profit, and with the right relationships and the right mentorships, you can definitely do that. So I want to bring to the stage right now, attorney girl. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm excited to have you on here tonight. Did you put your babies to bed?
I did. Thank you so much for inviting me. And shout out to my husband for this great landscape we have. But yep, the
Yeah.
babies are in bed and we are ready to talk real estate.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get into it. When did you get into real estate? What made you get into it, and when did you get into it?
Yeah. So I graduated from law school and I actually went to law school in New York and moved to Michigan. And I concentrated in tax and finance. So that's kind of my first true love, I guess you could say. And I got involved in title insurance here in Michigan in 2012. We're not going to say how old that makes me. And I've really been doing it ever since. And I really loved it and haven't, the real estate industry kind of sucks you in and you can't leave.
Yeah, it sucks you in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's not. I've lived a really good life, had a good childhood, but I said if there were two things that I could change, one, I would have went to a HBCU, and secondly, I would have got involved in real estate a lot earlier. Like, I think it's probably the strongest asset class out of all the assets, hands down. It's where most people, and what I love about real estate is like, I tell entrepreneurs this all the time. So, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I love business. But the reality is that you might have a great time in business, right? Make a lot of money, but you may have another season where it's on a downward cycle. But if you get involved in real estate and get those tenants flowing, people are always going to need a place to stay, no matter what's going on in the markets, right? Talk a little bit about some of the wealth that you've seen built in this asset class, and why is it so important? And I specifically focus on a lot of women, and definitely 2 women of color, because I want them to know that this is a space that they absolutely should be playing in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things that we don't always think about is we think about the real estate market as a whole. We're just like, the market is real estate. But just kind of like you hit on, there's a ton of different subsects even inside of the market. So you may have 5 or 10 years where maybe residential resale isn't moving super fast. You know, we get a lot of conversations about, oh, the real estate market is horrible right now. Certain parts of it are definitely slower than they were, but then you also have other parts that are doing really, really well. And then we also really focus a lot on just home sales, right? But kind of like you hit on, there's a lot of other ways to be involved in the real estate market. You may buy one home, but you're going to keep that home for 10 or 15 years, and you're going to rent it out, and you're going to have a tenant, and you're going to have that monthly income source on that one transaction. And so that's a big part of the market too. And then on the flip side, you know, you don't have to just look at buying and selling homes. You could also look at private lending and things like that on the other end of the spectrum, which right now we know interest rates aren't super low. So right now is a great time to get into private lending and things like that, because even with a phenomenal mortgage, you're still looking at a much higher interest rate that you can get back if you are that lender today than you could have 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, that's really good. So it's so many ways to skin a cat, not just looking at it from one perspective. What for you do you feel like is one of the best ways to be involved in real estate right now?
Personally, I like to buy and hold and use it as a rental property. That's my current method of real estate investment. For me, it works really well with what we're trying to do. And the way that we do that is we have a really phenomenal property manager that we work with. She's amazing, female-owned property management business. And so she actually even helps us sometimes identify properties that we might want to buy. We go out, we look at them, and then obviously we work to get that tenant in. And during that process, we also plan on using private money for some of those mortgages to buy the property on the front end. So we're usually making sure that we have 20% cash to put down, not the entire purchase price. So kind of working through that. And it's definitely not your, there's really no like stereotypical way to do any of this, right? But we really find a way to make it work for us. And so we like doing that. We like buying rental properties, holding on to them, and we do use private money for that. And we found that has worked really well for us and provided a good return, making sure that the properties that we're buying, we know are ideally going to gain value in the next 15 to 20 years, because that's our timeline that we're looking at. I would say that's like my personal preferred method, but there's, like we said, a ton of different ways to do it.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, I'm definitely a buy and hold girl, and I like to do buy and flips in between, just for that capital, for that 20% down. And I feel like I was asking Wendy this earlier, and I want to ask you this. Most of the time, people might get into real estate, and you might be feeling like, oh no, I don't know, I'm scared, da da da. But once you get in there, like you said, it just sucks you in, because you start realizing the possibilities are really endless. Like you can really change your entire life with it. And I was asking Wendy this, like when she came into real estate, what was her goal is as expansive as it became? She's like, no, I came in thinking one thing. And then once I did it, I was like, uh-oh, wait a minute, we can do this, we can do that. And so that's happened even with me. I came in kind of thinking one thing, and then the possibilities kept growing, and I started hanging out with other investors and private lenders and companies and designers and contractors. And it was like, I just fell head over heels in love with everything about it, all the moving parts, because I don't know, I feel like people that become real estate investors, you got to become like, there's a sharpness that you're going to have mentally to be able to solve problems, handle things, and really get creative in some of your deals. So when you started in real estate, did you have one vision in the beginning? Is it the same vision or did it change?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I think you've said something a few times that should be repeated until we're all blue in the face. And it has everything to do with networking and getting started and finding someone who can help you, just like just like we are doing tonight, kind of talking about this and making it feel attainable. Because when you first start, you're like, oh, that house looks great. It's $100,000. I don't have $100,000. I'm out. And that conversation doesn't need to end there. It has everything to do, like you said, with networking. And that's 100% how I got involved. Our property management company, who is beyond helpful and useful, and we rely on them for everything. They're our number one contact. Wendy is another human being that you're just like, oh, wow, she did this. She would tell you she started her business on credit cards. Like, I don't know that I want to do that, but I was like, whoa, if you can do this as a mom with twins and you can do it that way and you can figure it out, I'm sure I can figure it out, especially if I can ask you questions. And so, I mean, I would say, right, I started this just wanting to be an attorney, just wanting to have a fulfilling career in real estate. And I still do that all day, every day. I run a title company and I love it. And that's a big reason why my personal real estate investments are a little bit more hands off, because I pour all of my time, effort, and energy into more of that business, which is great. That's, a big passion of mine. But it definitely didn't, I had no idea that I would own multiple rental properties at this point in my life when I first started.
Wow. And it sounds like you're thinking about them legacy properties. These will be properties you probably won't sell.
Yeah, right? There's a very good chance we won't, and they will make a phenomenal, a phenomenal thing to give our kids when they grow up. And and just like you said, it's something that we can help our children grow and build their own success off of as well.
So, I think for me, and it sounds like for you too, mentorship has been a huge part of, having the success, because all deals are not created equal. And Caitlin, I know you're like me. I've definitely seen people lose their shirt in real estate. I've seen people become very successful, and I've seen people lose their shirt. What would you say are some things that people got to really be mindful of getting in real estate? And I do think it's very important. And a mentor for me, Kim Kiyosaki, is a good friend now and mentor to me. And I think that everybody needs to kind of find out, like, who is that tribe? Because I already know if I call Wendy, if she doesn't have the answer, she's going to get me on the phone with Joe, the appraiser. If Joe doesn't have the answer, he's going to be, and that's the power of having the right community. So people now that are closing deals, what's happening, I'm bringing them to legacy. And then Caitlin, you're looking over the paperwork to make sure everything is good. So talk about why real estate is not something you do want to get involved, but you don't want to just haphazard be like, I'm just going to watch YouTube and do it myself. You know what? I can't hear you. I don't know what happened. Mute. Are you on your phone by chance? I wonder if somebody tried to call you. Let's see. If somebody tried to call you, if you're on your phone, yeah, you're not muted on my end. Let's see. Okay, let's try. Yeah, I still can't hear you. You know, it may have happened if somebody tried to call you, sometimes it'll kick the volume off. You may have to jump off and jump back on, because I'm not hearing anything. But I think you can hear me though, right? Yeah. Yeah, you may have to jump off and jump back on, honey. But yeah, you guys, so yeah, I still can't hear you, girl. Okay. So yeah, so I want to encourage you guys right now, and maybe watching and say, okay, you know what? This is something I need to do. Go ahead and certified now. We have amazing packages where we're going to help you do your help you do your buy and holds to really make sure you have a good experience. Caitlin, talk now. Can I hear you now?
All right, can
Let's
you hear me
see.
now?
Okay,
Okay,
perfect. Okay,
good.
so tell us maybe a scenario or two.
Yeah, so uh, we definitely want to work with professionals who are super familiar with exactly what needs to happen, and I would say it's by far the industry standard to get what we refer to as title insurance. So when you're buying a property, that transaction is insured. So that's definitely kind of the first step, the like bare minimum, in my opinion, of what you want to be doing is making sure that you're going through a reputable, neutral third party who's going to provide that insurance. And in the state of Michigan, they also provide settlement services. So they'll be the people who collect all of the money and disperse all of the funds and do all of that for you as well. So that's the first, like, most important person you need to identify kind of on your own to be involved in that transaction to help keep it really, really safe for you. And then once you do that, that's when we start to really evaluate the transactions, um, because there's so many different things that can need to be kind of massaged so that we can get to the closing table. Maybe we have IRS liens, maybe we've bought a property off of a foreclosure or a tax sale, and there's a lot of intricacies that if we don't handle that transaction the correct way, it's going to have a very, very detrimental result for the buyer. Potentially what we call total title failure, which means you just spent $50,000 on a property and you got nothing. So that's where it's really, really important that you have a reputable title insurance company involved. And then I keep saying reputable as well, because in our industry, we have minimum standards, but then we also have things that we should be doing above and beyond those minimum standards that, an insurance policy is fantastic. We want an insurance policy that's, again, our minimum, but we want to also prevent problems from happening. If you have to make a claim, that's going to happen in the grand scheme of things. If you have a million closings, something funky is going to happen somewhere. We want the insurance, but the best case scenario is that we do enough research, enough planning that we can prevent those preventable scenarios from happening in the first place.
That's really good. That's really good. So, investors, how often are you seeing, one of the things that I'm always really, really mindful of from myself and my clients is you have to be careful being a real estate investor. Don't over leverage, right? Are taking on too projects too fast. Hey, I gotta buy it, and it's on the market, but closed yet. Let me rip and go get another buy. Waited till it closed. Like, you got to really be careful because cash flow is important. And I'm not one of those real estate investors that feel like I'm going to be broke. I'm not doing that. I'm going to pay myself. That's after every close. Then I'm going to set aside liquidity for my next deal, but I'm definitely going to pay myself. How do you feel like real estate investors and not do way and maybe kind of and always cash crunch?
Yeah, I think there are specific types of transactions where it's a lot easier to fall into that bucket of being very cash poor, because just like you said, we're over leveraging. Maybe we're not making we're not putting we're not planning on putting a lot of money down, and then we're going to sell, and we're really just taking all of those proceeds to pay off a mortgage, and we're not gaining equity and things like that. I also think that sometimes we're not leveraging things when we could be, which means that maybe we do have $50,000 in cash to utilize and we're putting it all in one property when maybe we could actually put it in 3 properties and leverage it a little bit differently. And so I think that I think a lot of it has to do with the transaction itself as well. Are you guys familiar with kind of like double closing transactions and how those tend to work?
Yeah, but talk about it.
Yeah, so a relatively common transaction type is if I'm going to act as a real estate investor and I maybe have no intention of holding this property. I found a great deal from a seller and I'm like, well, I'm going to jump on this because this is a great deal, but I don't have the cash. So I'm basically going to buy it and then I'm going to sell it to someone else because I can't hold on to it. But you're like, well, I don't have the cash. So there's really 2 ways to facilitate this deal. One, I can take that contract I have with my seller and I can basically sell my contract, which is called an assignment of contract, where I give it to that end buyer and then our original seller and our end buyer just have a transaction amongst themselves. And I'm really no cash out of pocket, just collecting that fee for the sale of my purchase agreement, which I was diligent on getting, right? So that's great. I have no cash out of pocket here. The alternative is we do a double closing. And what I'm going to actually have to do is front that cash to buy this property from the seller at that great deal I got. And then I'm going to have to turn around and sell it to my end buyer. These types of transactions where we have these double closings tend to get a little bit messier and you run into a little bit more of kind of what you're talking about, where we're getting ahead of ourselves and we're planning on being the person who's right there in the middle, who's handing a check to the seller in order to then receive that check from the buyer. And in these scenarios, you can get financing. You can do what's called transactional funding, and you can go to someone and say, hey, I just need money for 5 days, 10 days, or 2 days, whatever that negotiation may look like, right? You're gonna pay a fair bit of money, but it definitely helps you get the deal done so that you can turn around and close and sell, which is great because again, I'm very little cash out of pocket. But kind of like exactly that situation that you're describing, what if I buy it and now my buyer is in the wind? Right? And I can't turn around and sell it in 2 days. And now I've leveraged this property because I didn't really have the cash for it. What does that scenario look like? And how do I prevent myself from getting in that scenario? And that's another great example of working with a settlement company and having really great contracts so that, hey, I have a way to basically get out of the second sale or a way to push that second sale. And the same thing with that first sale. And we have some maneuverability there as opposed to really locking myself in and being stuck here with this mortgage that I maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's good, Caitlin. Yes, Carla, she said that sounds like wholesale. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yep. So that's it. So, I think the point that I wanted to make sure that you guys know as you guys are listening tonight, that there are a lot of different aspects of real estate and you can't expect to learn everything overnight. Every single day, even now, like I'm forever a student. Even though I've been doing this since like 2017, I promise you every single day I'm learning something different about real estate, something different about the deal, whether it's how to frame. I don't do the contracting myself, but I know how to talk the language, whether it's a contractor telling me, hey, we're going to frame this window a different way that I wasn't familiar with, or whether I find out about a private equity deal or transactional funding, which I've had an opportunity to help facilitate some of those deals. And I made a nice percentage within just 30 days. I've done a couple of them this year and they were great. People just needed almost like gap funding. They just needed to hold the money. I trusted the process. We put it on title. So I made sure that I was secure, gave them the money. And then at close, I made a nice percentage on top of that. So like you said, there's a lot that we want to make sure that we offer here in the Assetify community. All you guys have to be willing to do is say, hey, I'm ready to connect. I'm ready to learn. As a matter of fact, August 31st and September 1st, downtown Detroit at the Renaissance Center. Go ahead and get your tickets for the live conference. It's definitely going to be a game changer. Wendy's going to be there speaking. Some other phenomenal banking. We've got some banks that are going to be out. We have mortgage brokers, contractors, mobile home specialists for people that are interested in investing in mobile homes. Like every part of the real estate deal is going to be in that room, right? And then also on September 1st, you'll have an opportunity to actually come out and look at 2 single family properties and 2 mobile homes that you can actually invest in and purchase if you like. I want to ask you this as we get ready to wrap tonight. I am not a fan of partnerships under 20 doors, me personally. I feel like, especially when people first start investing, that they need to kind of figure out what is like your investor identity. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you don't want to do? I'm working with a client right now that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad she doesn't have a partner, because she's very, very meticulous, very, very particular. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it might not necessarily make the best partner. What's your feel about that, Caitlin, about partnerships? And plus, I don't like to spend the money. I'll take on the liability and let me take all the profit. But what's your feel on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say for real estate, I prefer to do it myself, so we can do it my way, the way I want it done. And for me, time is super, super valuable. Like I said before, I run a business during the day. So the way that I like to do real estate investing is a lot more controlled, I would say, so that I know I'm not the person who's got to run out to the property at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. I know I've got a guy and I'm comfortable hiring him, right? I don't want to have that conversation with my partner. Hey, are we good splitting this fee, or are you going to go, or am I going to go? I just don't want to deal with that. On the flip side, when we're talking about much bigger ventures and kind of more business ownership, I think there's certainly benefits to partnering with different people who bring different things to the table that I can't bring to the table. So I definitely see the value to both sides, but I would say personally on my real estate business, I definitely have little desire to do the vast majority of our investing with partners. Now, the caveat to that is, like you said, there's so many different kinds of investments, and what do you classify a partner? Like I said, I've got an amazing private lender that we love to use, and he's making money off of my business for sure. But he's really not. He's not an owner on the property, and he doesn't have any say in the way that the property is managed or anything like that. So you may have to have other people involved in different capacities. They may not be a partnership per se. But and this kind of goes back to kind of what feels like the theme of the evening. You need friends. You need a lot of friends. We need to be able to control their involvement and make sure that, we're able to get some good information from them.
Yeah, that is so good. I mean, I'm always curious. I always like to ask that question because everybody's a little different. Even though I will say that I think most investors kind of feel that way. The bigger projects, my husband and I are invested in a 216 unit luxury apartment in Elizabeth, Kentucky. And so we're partners there, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? That makes sense. It's a bigger deal. But before that, like you said, how things are done, how fast things are done, how slow things are done, costs. I mean, you got to consider all of that when you're talking about, I want a partner. I've seen it work better when it's over 20, when it's under 20. I was literally talking to a guy who has got like 55 doors, and he said he was a partner on like a 4 unit. He said, I've had it for like 4 years. He said, I finally was able to just buy my partner out because the math wasn't math. He said, it just did not make sense. He said, so now I don't want a partner under 20. So, those are just all things that, like you said, you got to have friends, you got to have relationships, you got to be able to ask the questions and, just stay a student and know there's always a smarter way, a better way to do it. If people want your information, if they say, hey, I need you, I need her services as a real estate attorney, She is a part of the Certified community, so you guys would have access to her too, but I want you to give whatever information, your Instagram or phone number or email or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so our title company is Legacy Title. And so you can find it on our social media. Is pretty simple, Legacy Title. And a very simple email address to use, because we actually have an entire team that specializes on investment style transactions. Most title companies don't have that. So if you want to email us, I suggest emailing info@legacyclosings, and that's closings with an s.com. And I will absolutely jump in and help you with any questions you have. And we also have some really great resources on our website as well. If you're looking for a basic contract, some basic documents, things like that, feel free to take a look at our website. Buyer and seller net sheets. If you're wondering how much your bottom line is going to be, you want to do some estimates on that. Super, super useful. I use it all the time. I think it's great.
Love it. You know what? I do have a quick question for you before we get ready to wrap. Commercial appraisals are different from residential appraisals. Commercial appraisals, what kind of, what would you say?
I said true.
Yeah, they're different. True. I'm used to commercial appraisals being between $2,000 and $2,500. But then recently I'm doing a deal and they're like, it's going to be $3,600. I was like,
is it a lot of real estate? Like, is it a lot of property involved or a large building?
6 doors. It's 6 doors.
But the real estate itself, like the lot, is the lot large?
No.
Where is it located?
Joy in Greenfield.
I don't think that's super out of the realm of reasonable, but usually there's a reason why it's more. Why are you getting the appraisal?
I'm buying it. So
but is it a lender required appraisal?
Yeah, it's a lender required. So I tried to use my appraisers, but they weren't on the panel. They weren't on the panel. So they're going to get them on the panel next time. So everything that we do going forward, I can use them, but that's going to take a month and we're closing on the 15th. So it's not going to happen this time.
Yeah.
But I just was a little surprised because I've talked to some other people that are doing multifamilies like me, and we've all been landing around 2,000 to 2,500. So this was the first time I saw 3,600. So I was a little bit like, so.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I don't think it's in the world of ridiculous. But I would agree with you. It sounds a little bit high. Yeah. They're probably taking advantage of it, you know, when you're depending on the lender you're working with. I mean, I'm doing a DSCR because it's a hold, but this is great, Caitlin. Thank you so much for jumping on here tonight. Oh, I do want to ask you this last thing, girl. What would you say to women that maybe are a little hesitant in getting involved in real estate? I just want them to know they got a spot at the table. You know, you do have to be clear, you have to be aggressive, but I want to see more women involved. What would you say to women watching? I would say that the world of real estate is ours. Like, real estate is so dominated by women right now. I think we do a phenomenal job because we are really, like, we're very attentive to detail. We're brilliant. And it's not as scary as it sounds. We sometimes get sticker shock and we're just nervous because we've never done it before. Find a friend who knows what they're doing, and just do it and just try it. And again, there's, just like you said, find someone who's going to help you do it the right way. Someone who has had success. Like, obviously, if you're on this phone call talking to you, you're in the right spot. You know that you can trust that process, and once you do it one time, you're going to do it 10 more times.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely addictive all day.
Yeah.
I'm a full-time investor, and Love it. I love everything about the deal from beginning to end. I love helping people. And so if you guys are watching tonight, get on email. Go ahead and email support@acertifiednow.com if you're like, hey, I'm ready to connect. I'm ready to get started. I want to go. Caitlin, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for repping women. Thank you for repping in the legal space and just, jumping on here last minute tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Looking forward to doing a lot of deals with you. So thanks for jumping on. And everybody, thank you guys so much for jumping on. Everybody have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.